Welcome. This is the first episode of our new podcast called I Hate That I Love Startups. And kind of the premise, and the reason we felt like it was a good idea to start a podcast about startups is, as I don't know about you, but as I look online on TikTok, Instagram, even when I YouTube stuff, a lot of the things that I see are like, these are the 5 reasons why you should start a company. Or I was even listening to a podcast on the way to work today, and it was about stopping to smell the roses of, accomplishments or whatever that you've done, realizing that just starting the company is better than 99% of all entrepreneurs will ever do in their lives. I'm like, okay. And like, even like with me, it's like I'm having a conversation with Natalie, my wife, and she's like, babe, you have to realize that compared to most people, you're so much further along. I'm like, okay, like most people drive a truck. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, I'm not comparing myself to the world or society. Like, I'm comparing myself to the expectations that I have. And compared to those expectations, I've really accomplished nothing. And that's kind of what I think this podcast will be a bit about is I hate that I love this because the feeling of never being satisfied or never doing enough is just kind of a hard thing to come to grips with. That will always kind of be that type of person, So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, kind of talk about what it's going to be about moving forward. But I would love to just kind of introduce ourselves. Why do we feel like we have the authority? What are we doing right now? What have we done in the past? Why don't we start with you, Iril? Introduce yourself.
Totally. And I just want to say I totally agree with you. I actually think that if you want to build companies or businesses, there has to be some level of masochism, right? I think the easy path is to go get a job and live a comfortable life where you know the check is coming. But I know for me and you, it's not even about the money. I think the money is obviously nice. Money makes life easier, but it's just so exciting to build something. Yeah. And that's really what you're getting out of building companies is seeing something come to fruition and really just, you're willing something into existence. Mm-hmm. And most people, you're taking something from like literal ground zero, no velocity. You're getting into first gear, second gear, third gear. And most people will join you at third or fourth gear. But it takes a very few like masochistic individual psych profile that love that 0 to third gear. And so just to introduce myself, my name's Iril. I'm the founder and CEO of a vertical SaaS platform called Churchstream. Over the last decade, I've been in and worked around churches as a volunteer, a leader, a fractional executive director. As well as the last 5 years, I've had I'm grateful for the career that I've had in marketing. I've worked at 2 startups, both in the solar industry. One, I was early stage, I'd say. You were earlier than I was. But, our team, we weren't the heads of the team, but we were part of the team that really took that company from about 8 million in revenue to towards the end of our stint there, about 50 million in revenue. Yeah. Then you started your own startup in that same vertical. You recruited me to come along. So over there, I was doing marketing and the COO role. We had scaled that to, was it 10 million in revenue, 12 million?
Yeah, we did 12 million in 2024. Yeah.
12 million in revenue. And then I just was deeply inspired by some of the problems that I saw in the church management and ops space. And just given our experience, we decided to start this company.
Yeah.
So really stoked. I think this pod will be cool because, we're authorities on some things, but I also think it's important to really peel the curtain back for people who didn't go to these target schools. Mm-hmm. I didn't go to Yale. I didn't go to Columbia. I didn't go to NYU or Harvard Business School.
Wait, Okay, yeah, this is awkward because my co-podcaster was supposed to go to Yale.
Okay, gotcha.
So we're going to have to cut. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Find a replacement, get on LinkedIn. I didn't go to Stanford. I know you didn't go to college, and like we live in Bakersfield, California. Our parents did not work in investment banking or private equity or create startups themselves. Like we are literally starting from ground zero. We're not in a startup ecosystem. And I think documenting that journey for people who might be dreaming about this and who might feel this urge or this call or maybe this purpose to build companies, even though their bets aren't hedged in the first place, I'm hoping that's who we get to really speak to and really, empower. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I absolutely do. I feel pretty unqualified to speak from a place of authority a lot of the times, just because I kind of like the stress or the tension of like, man, I haven't done crap.
Sure.
However, kind of looking back over the last couple of years, we've done some pretty cool things that most people will never do in their entire life, or maybe even never think to do.
So Nat was right all along.
Yeah. Dang, dude. Moral of the story: the podcast should be
your wife's always
your
right.
wife's right. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, and I'll kind of introduce myself. I'm Trent Slaybaugh. I real kind of touched on it, but I don't come from much. I didn't go to college. I didn't have a ton of opportunities growing up. I was reading a book this morning called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And it's a stat that's common. It's not like Dan Martell discovered this, but children who grow up in an unstable environment are like have a much higher likelihood to start companies and be entrepreneurs. And that's kind of my story. It's like I moved 13 times before I graduated high school. I went to like 11 different schools here in Bakersfield. Through that, you learn certain things and you figure out how to adapt to different environments. And, I had to be quick on my feet and learn how to make friends. I had to get in my teacher's good graces, even though my peers had been in my teacher's classes for years and that was my first year. It's just stuff like that it kind of sets you up. And it's almost to the point for me where, and we've talked about this before, the moment I start feeling comfortable in something is the moment I feel like I need to shake it up. It's like an addiction that I have to stress.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like a normal person, if we just zoom out and look at kind of what we're doing, a normal person, it's like we did 12 million in revenue in 2024 I'm currently the CEO and I'm the founder of Renew Power. Real was COO of Renew Power, exited towards the end of last year, but we're currently in business. We're currently on pace to do more than 12 million this year. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to start another company. Like, what, dude? And and I don't want to talk about like how much money I make or anything, but like we live a really comfortable life. I'm making more, or I have the potential to make more. I don't, but like as a founder, like I can make as much money as I want to take from the business. I have the potential to make more money than a teacher does in a year, in a month. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to start another company. I'm going to get uncomfortable. And it's like this addiction to the stress.
Yeah, just to echo what you said, my therapist literally told me, yeah, you're probably addicted to stress and you should chill out. And currently my recruiting strategy for this new company is, look, giving them the vision, trying to display my conviction because I really do believe in what we're doing, but then talking people out of the job. Like, this is going to be extremely demanding and it's going to take a lot from you and you're probably going to be underpaid. But if they get through that kind of disincentivizing talk, and they still believe in the vision and the conviction that we're going to carry, then like, yeah, come send it with us, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, if I can just speak to what you're saying about business is not just about making money, and startups are actually not super sexy or glamorous. Like, I'm gonna just look at the camera right here. If you can do anything else, like literally anything else, and it could even be an intrapreneur, not being the number one guy to start things, do that, because it is so difficult. And, you know, even right now, we've raised a little bit of money at Renew at different stages, but I think for me, this is, I don't know how you feel, but this is kind of an entirely different type of thing, you know, like pitching people that we absolutely have no relationship or intro to. Like we said, I didn't go to a Target school. You didn't go to a Target school. I didn't have an internship at Netflix, Facebook, or Amazon. I know you didn't. And so we're just kind of sending it and seeing what happens. You know?
And you literally had a pitch 2 days ago.
Yeah. Yeah, which was pretty nerve-wracking. So we're just to clarify and give context, you know, we're pitching. I'll pitch to anyone, but there's this show that I really like called The Pitch, and it's basically Shark Tank without the reality TV show or the gimmicks.
Right.
You know, you have on Shark Tank like Kevin O'Leary saying, "Hey, I'll give you $1 million for 8% royalties on everything you sell." It's like, dude, get out of here. It's not even a real thing. Like, what are you doing? And so what happens is thousands of companies apply to the show. 20 get selected to pitch in front of 5 venture capital firms at the same time.
Yeah.
And so we applied. I had my first meeting with the coolest guy named Peter, worked at a high growth ed tech startup in China for 10 years.
You don't have to talk him up, dude. He's probably not going to see this.
Yeah, true.
Just kidding.
Just an absolute rocket ship of a company. And, you know, there was actually no deck. So I was fully expecting to go just deck, run it through. And he's like, nah, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about it. And, you know, we sent it. You were in the room. I don't know how you felt it went, but we ultimately moved on to the next round, and I'll be meeting with or having an intro or a connecting call with the next person who's vetting our idea for the show.
Which, I mean, means you did awesome. I just think that in those moments, it's like, it's kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't even compute sometimes what is happening. You know? It's like, man, this thing that was an idea 6 months ago, we are now pitching to investors.
Yeah.
And people are starting to believe in it.
Yeah.
Because of your ability to cast a vision. And I'll just kind of speak to that. Do you know who Adam Newman is?
No.
Founder of WeWork.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm watching, they made a biopic.
That's on Hulu, right?
No, it's on Apple TV.
Okay.
Dude, honestly, you should watch it.
All right, I will.
You want to talk about stress? Like, it's crazy. But anyway, so Adam Newman, founder of WeWork, is having a conversation with his wife, and he asks his wife, and I don't know, I've definitely asked Natalie this question. I don't know if you've asked Lena this question, but babe, am I a failure? Yeah, and he asked this question to his wife, and her answer, and obviously this is fiction at this point probably, but her answer surprised me. It's like, yes. And he was...
Lena and that would never.
Yeah, but I appreciated the answer because he asked her, well, then, like, well, he just looked confused, and she clarified. She's like, you're a failure because you don't believe in what you're doing. Because at this point, he was selling, like, baby clothes with knee pads, and his other product was collapsible high heels.
Oh, pre-WeWork.
Pre-WeWork.
Oh, okay.
So, babe, am I a failure? She goes, yes, because you don't believe in what you're doing. I think the moment you have something that you believe in, you will be absolutely unstoppable. And kind of to speak to your recruiting strategy, Adam Newman was kind of notorious for his ability to get people to do absolutely outlandish things for him and his company by providing the culture and the vision that they needed to believe in the impact. So for example, it's a co-working space and their mission statement was elevating the world's consciousness. It's like, what does a co-working space have to do with the world's consciousness?
Yeah.
And the thing that they were promoting and the vision that they had was literally about like cultural issues. And everyone who worked there was so bought into elevating the world's consciousness that they would work 80 hours a week. One guy gets called from his like brother's wedding to have a meeting at midnight. You know, these are the kind of things that he was able to get out of people. And obviously that's toxic and he was, you know, insane. But it kind of speaks to what a strong vision will yield out of people. And I'm in sales. Simon Sinek, we talk a lot about Simon Sinek, and he has a book called Finding Your Why. And as we're having this conversation, I kind of had maybe a bit of a wake up moment, like a realization. I'm always talking about like, in order to be a successful salesperson, in order to go get your face kicked in on the doors, on the phones, on, you know, business to business or whatever, you have to have a strong why. And I don't know if everyone is the type of person like you and I to have a strong why, that when things get hard, when it gets stressful, we're addicted to that feeling. Not only that, not just that feeling, but solving the problem to get out of that feeling. I don't think everyone's like that. I don't think a lot of people are like that. I think what's more important than an individual salesperson or employee having a strong, I think what's more important than them having a strong why is your company having a strong why, a strong vision, and a strong mission that the people who maybe don't think the way we think can buy into and pull something out of them that maybe they didn't even know existed.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think if you just boil down a company to its first principles, all it is a group of people working towards a specific outcome. So that WeWork example, the outcome of elevating the world's consciousness is so, I mean, that's just a lesson in marketing, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you know, let's go beyond the co-working and the desks and trying to get subscribing companies. It's like, by curating and providing a space where companies can build, meet, and connect, we are ultimately doing so much good by elevating the world's consciousness. I mean, that's a lesson in marketing, but that is something that people can give their life to.
Yeah.
And just to speak to really what you were saying about being addicted to the stress and pulling people into a vision, and it's surreal when you're in the moment, and like just communicating that vision and conviction. One of my favorite shows, and I know I'm kind of switching gears here, but one of my favorite shows ever is this show called Mad Men, and it takes place in the 70s. It follows this anti-hero character, Don Draper, who's an ad executive in the 70s at a medium-sized firm. And he has this line that I think that I've really come to know to be true, is that most people want to be told so bad what to do that they'll listen to anyone. And I think that especially in today's cultural kind of milieu, everyone is trying to propagate this like weird message or for selfish ambitions or scam people into buying their course. And I think that if you have a deep conviction about your mission, about what you're doing, about like what Simon Sinek says, your why, do not be afraid to put that message out there, because I guarantee you there are so many other people who might feel that, but they just don't have the language. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%.
And so that's really what I'm trying to do in every meeting, is just, this is my conviction, and I'm just casting a net for people to see if they're willing to take this journey with me. It's like, I'm never going to try and manipulate someone into joining us, because I don't have a scarcity mindset. I believe that there's an abundance of people. We're believers in Jesus and God. I believe that God will send the right people.
Yeah.
He will send the divine appointments. And I'm just casting the net the same way that Jesus tells Peter to do it, the same way that Jesus tells Peter to do in John 15. You know, I love that analogy. Just casting a net, and Jesus will provide the harvest. He will provide the fish. Not to get religious, but that's what I think about. Yeah.
No, that's valid. Yeah, dude, that's really good. And I think the difference between manipulation and leadership is your personal conviction in what you're leading someone to.
That's good because it's a fine line. It can be a fine line.
Yeah. So if I'm just telling someone something to get a result out of that person, or, you know, get something that I want out of that person, that's manipulation.
Yeah.
But if I'm telling someone, hey, I believe this vision, I believe that this is what we can accomplish. If you do this, are you willing to do this with us? That's so much different.
Yeah.
Because you're allowing them to buy into what you're actually doing and giving them the choice to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I think we've seen both.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know that I've been a part of the latter yet. And I'm hoping that we accomplish that with Churchstream. But I've definitely been a part of the manipulation side of it.
Yeah.
And this is a tension that I've struggled with a little bit. You know, I subscribe to more of like the Maxwell style of leadership, lead by example, you know, servant leadership type of thing. And the people that I see killing it, especially in our space, are a lot more toxic as leaders. And you know, the question that I've always asked, like, why do people follow such toxic leaders? And I think, you know, I'm able to see that as toxicity, but what the toxic leader is willing to do is say, or manipulate the truth to any extent in order to get the result that they want to get.
Yeah.
So whether that's through sales or whether that's through leadership or whatever, they're willing to say whatever it takes in order to get the deal, in order to get the recruit, in order to get the team to follow what they're saying. And I'm not willing to cross that line. So I've swung the pendulum on the complete opposite side to where I'm afraid to cast vision and say, hey, this is where we're going. Because my experience under that kind of leadership was, hey, Trent, meet me at this office here, and giving me a personal tour of the office saying, hey, this is going to be your corner office with a huge window. You see this space? You're going to own this space, 2,000 square foot of training space.
Yeah.
And if we do this right, Trent, if you buy into this, you're going to be sipping Mai Tais on the beach, you know? And so, like, and truthfully, bro.
Yeah.
I believed it.
Yeah.
And I bought into it.
Yeah.
But the truth is always revealed. And eventually the truth came out that the intention behind those conversations weren't to sip Mai Tais on the beach with me, but to get me to work 80 hours a week to propel a certain individual's success.
Totally. And I think you articulate it really well. I do think it's a question worth asking, why do people follow such toxic leaders?
Yeah.
And why is it so hard to identify in the moment? And I don't know if I have a decisive answer, a decisive way to articulate why. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe people just aren't that smart, you know? But I think, to your credit, though, I remember that example. And I think, man, maybe this is part of the answer. It was impossible to tell at the time.
Yeah.
Impossible. And so maybe toxic leadership is almost this canon event that you have to go through so that you yourself are refined as a leader and to carry on with your Maxwell point so you can serve people much better. There's this interesting playwright called Tale of Three Kings. A lot of pastors and church leaders love it. I think it can get kind of extreme, but it's basically this playwright about David and Saul and how every leader has both David and Saul in him. Saul was someone who was deeply insecure, self-serving, knew that David was next in line, but did everything in his power to keep him down because he didn't want to relinquish control of the kingdom. And David was the one who took the persecution and just was like, dude, this is who's in the seat.
Yeah.
I will wait for God to elevate me. And I think every leader does have David and Saul in them. I know I do. And the main part of the story is basically like, you got to have an experience with Saul to get the Saul out of you, to get the selfishness, to get the toxicity out of you. And I think working with you now for who knows how long, you know, I think that experience was a canon event for you, because it's this filter that you now see in everything that you do, which the world dramatically needs more of, right? Leaders who aren't completely self-serving, but leaders who are looking out for the good of their employees, their vendors, and their clients, right? I mean, you just posted a video about how you shouldn't go into business if money is your first and foremost value, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, like what's the thought process behind that?
I think so much of business is dying to yourself. I mean, there's been countless times that I've sacrificed a lot of money to make sure a rep is happy, or an employee gets paid, you know, because I don't think the rep truly has, the salesperson truly has a grasp on what takes place behind the scenes. So I'm at my aunt's funeral, and you know, I'm obviously there to honor her life and visit with family and all of this. And it's Friday, so we do our payroll on Friday. And the way we do things, because we are more of a sales dealer, is we get paid from our vendor. And then the same day that we get paid from our vendor, we pay our salespeople. That way there's not like a week lag. Probably not smart, but we do it. So we send out the money, about $50,000 in commission. And I check our bank account, and our bank account only dropped $50,000. And typically when you check your bank account, you're looking to see how much it went up this week, you know, after you paid your commissions and everything. And what happened was our vendor didn't pay us $65,000. And one thing that I've always valued, or one thing that I've always stood on as an owner of specifically a solar company, is the rep will never know if we're dealing with things like that. And it's just like, I was fully ready to eat $50,000 if that's what it was going to be. And there's been many times where us as owners of Renew or different businesses, where we have ate things or sacrificed vast amounts for someone who will never even know.
And probably leave.
Yeah, and there's no loyalty. And, you know, I think that's also kind of going back to like the balance between the toxicity and the servant leader is like, well, a toxic leader would tell them, hey, I just ate $50,000 for you. You know?
Yeah.
Servant leader says, hey, I'm just going to do this regardless of who sees. But finding the balance between showing someone your value and your worth without swinging the pendulum in like, you owe me, like this is, you know, the difference, like the kind of the mob thing, right? It's like mob mentality of like, they're trying to get loyalty. It's like, what even is loyalty, right? Family, loyalty. Yeah, sure. But why should you be loyal to me? I don't know you from Adam. You've been working for my company for 6 months.
Yeah.
Apart from that, we don't hang out. We don't go to lunch. You know, we don't have holidays together. It's like, why should you have blind loyalty to me unless I am force feeding you reasons to, you know? And that's just a tension that I truly do struggle with as a leader, is like, man, I definitely want to gain loyalty and a following from people, but I also don't want to do it in a way. I want them to follow me because of their belief in me or their belief in what I'm doing, rather than, hey, I ate $50,000 for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So where do you land on that now? Like, where are you at now, or how are you thinking about that now? Kind of observing that you maybe swung too far the other way.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a guy who started in my industry, who made it out as now a serial entrepreneur. He owns a franchise with 12 plus locations. They're doing 9 figures. I mean, they're crushing it.
Actually?
Yeah. They're crushing it. They're all across the U.S. And I had lunch with them a few weeks back, and I was kind of talking about this. I was like, man, I just feel like I give the world to these reps, and then they leave. What do? He's like, Trent, you have to know your value, and Trent, you have to know your value, but you also have to have the ability to communicate your value. Your value means nothing if no one recognizes it or no one knows about it. So something I've been doing a lot more is talking about the things that I'm doing behind the scenes without necessarily, bringing it up in a way to rub it in someone's face. I'm saying, hey guys, great work this week. Just to let you know what's going on behind the scenes. I had this meeting with Mike over at this company. This is what we discussed. What I was able to do for you guys is take your attic run adder from $1,500 to $500. Now you're going to be able to make $1,000 more in commission if you're doing attic runs. Like things like that, just to let them know that things are happening behind the scenes, and I'm going to bat for them, and I'm working really hard. And without me, they would probably be in a worse situation. But I'm trying to do that subconsciously rather than like, dude, without me, you'd be in a worse situation.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And as you're talking, I think, and this is a moot point, I think the line between manipulative, toxic leadership, leveraging vision in order to get someone to do something beyond what's healthy, and communicating effectively your value and what you're doing and what you're contributing to the team really is intention at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to gauge intention, which I think is why people fall into toxic, manipulative leadership, because a lot of people are really good at doing plastic. And the cracks don't really become clear until time will tell.
Yeah.
And so that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. And I think that's super good. Would you call him a mentor? Like,
yeah. At this point,
your mentor told you. I mean, as you're talking, I even think about that's what I'm trying to do subliminally in every meeting that I have, right? I'm trying to not even say it verbally, but communicate. I have a good handle. So let me back up. We are raising $400,000 in our early stage round. Investors would call it pre-seed, at a $3.6 million valuation. And because we're pre-product and because we're pre-revenue, so much of what investors, from what I'm reading, from what my consultants are saying, is founder market fit. Like the story, do you have a handle on the problem? Are you connected to the industry? And are they believing in you that you're the right person to solve this problem and ultimately monetize it?
Yep.
So when you talk about communicating your value, that's great language, because that's basically what I'm trying to do in everything that I'm doing. Whether it's framing an email, whether it's communicating on a pitch, whether it's cold outreaching to a VC on TikTok. And so going back to why we're talking and doing this podcast, you have to be confident in your value. And if you're not confident in your value, you probably need to get more skills, right? I think a lot of people have misplaced confidence, probably insecurity that's hidden by a veneer of confidence or bravado or fake gravitas, because they don't have any actual skills or they don't have a track record to prove that they had the courage to do something. I'm never going to hate on someone who's trying to hustle, freelance, make content, build companies, because I know how hard it is. And I know how difficult it is to put yourself out there. I'm having to use every single resource that I have, be shameless, asking for intros, asking for an email just to send a deck, and that's difficult. So if someone's hating on you, it's probably because they're insecure because they don't have a track record of doing that themselves and they don't know the cost. If someone was watching this right now and they don't feel like they're confident, or they don't feel like they can communicate their value because they feel like they don't have value yet, what would you suggest to them or like, how would you think about that just based off your journey to feeling like, yeah, I'm going to communicate my value because it's the best thing to do for the organization, you know?
Yeah. So and this has to be the last thing because we have to wrap up.
Yeah.
But I have what I call a wake up moment that I can point to for me. And maybe this will help someone out there. I was driving down the 5 freeway to our Santa Clarita office for our last company. And I'm in prayer, I'm listening to worship music, and I look to my left, and there is a semi-truck that says Prime, Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And this is going to sound crazy, but I truly felt in my spirit in that moment a reminder that Jeff Bezos is human in the same way that I am human. And I think that a lot of the times we look to these people, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, we've talked about Adam Newman, these guys who have killed it in their lives as these fictional characters. And they're not. They're just people who had the courage to do something, had the courage to start something. And I think that is literally the only difference. A lot of the times it's not brilliance. A lot of the times it's not circumstances. It's not how you were raised or the college you went to. A lot of the times, the thing that separates the people who are uber successful and the people who aren't is just starting. So I think for me, that was the moment where I was like, screw it. There's no difference. I'm just going to do this. 2 months later, we started Renew. Right. And I'm just like, we're just going to start and see where it goes. Yeah. You know, and that feeling of like, who are you comparing yourself to? You know, what are you looking to? It's like, compared to the rest of the world, you're better than 99% or you're better. Okay. Dude, I'm trying to be on Bezos level. I'm trying to be on Musk level.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly. It's like, what's separating me from them?
Yeah.
You know, it started out of their garage on a literal door that they put legs on. Yeah. You know, we did that in our office. But, you know, it's like literally no resource that they had that I don't have access to. It's just the willingness and ability to ask. The willingness and ability to start. Just to say, go.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, there's so much more value. I keep talking about this show. You got to watch this show. It's really good. We Crashed. But one of his huge investors invested $4.4 billion with a B, billion dollars into WeWork.
What's his number?
Yeah, right? Okay. But he's sitting there and he's like, who wins in a fight? The smart guy or the crazy guy? Adam Newman says, the crazy guy. He's like, you're not crazy enough.
Wow.
I don't think what it takes is IQ. I think what it takes is a willingness to look crazy, to be delusional, and run as fast and as hard as you can in the direction that you decide to run in. That's it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to wrap up. Yeah, so this is I Hate That I Love Startups, and we're excited to continue this journey. We're going to be putting out an episode a week, so by the time this is out, you should be able to tune into Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So watch, and we hope you enjoy. I'm Trent.
I'm Ariel. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yep, thanks.